Dajaha, Barry here from Best China Info, speaking to you from Guilin, China, Guilin. I was doing a little bit of research last night, looking into the whole issue of forced labor, as they call it, as they're trying to claim Xinjiang and cotton. And then I saw this new report from Bloomberg, who are one of the leading media outlets in the West. And what they're saying here is, in this new report, came out yesterday, I believe, secrecy and abuse claims haunt China's solar factories in Xinjiang. So secrecy and abuse claims. So this is a claim of secrecy and abuse. So let's go down this Bloomberg thing. The world's green power surge depends on polysilicon made in China's remote northwest. No one really knows what's going on inside the facilities. And this is from Bloomberg reporters, Colin Murphy, James Mager, in Xinjiang, they say. And they made a little video. Let's have a look at this video. So what we can see here is what looks instantly like a copycat of the BBC efforts, which give a nice grainy thing. Let's run this, okay?
Yeah. So yeah, they're definitely following us, so this could put an end to our video and photograph very quickly. Security apparatus in Xinjiang was pretty intense. You know, before I went to Xinjiang, I was, in my head, I was saying things like, well, you know, it's probably exaggerated somewhat, but it was actually a little bit more.
Those are two of the cars that have been following us for at least a couple of hours.
Okay, let's pause here. So on roads in Xinjiang, generally there are huge, long, straight roads that go on for hundreds and thousands of miles. So if there's a car behind you, you say it's behind me. On Route 66 in America, you might say there's a car behind us. But in Xinjiang, it suddenly becomes, according to Bloomberg, there's a car following us, okay? And here we can see they've pinpointed something that looks like a car in the distance there, a white car. It could be any car. We don't know because there's no identification here. So this is Bloomberg saying cars were following us. Okay, let's continue.
Now,
Colin and James are reporters for Bloomberg News. They've travelled to Xinjiang, China, a region at the very heart of the country's solar ambitions, and what government critics say is the centre of...
Okay, so again, they produce images of some kind of facility that has a fence, as many facilities, schools do in China, to protect them. And they showed a little security camera there, which are all over the world, not just in China or Xinjiang. Okay. And they're talking about China's solar ambitions. Well, China, as you may or may not know, is at the lead of producing solar panels and solar renewable energy technology. Okay. It's quite important for the world and for China.
...of a crackdown on Uyghurs and other minorities. Factories like this one churn out vast quantities of polysilicon, the raw material in billions of solar panels all over the world.
Solar panels are modules, and nearly all solar panels.
So let's pause here. This is Jenny Chase, head of solar analysis. Bloomberg have a solar analysis team, apparently. So she's the head of this in her living room there. Jenny Chase, head of solar analysis, Bloomberg NEF. Okay. So what's she saying? Solar panels.
Panels are made out of polysilicon. Essentially, almost any crystalline silicon module is likely to have a small amount or more of Xinjiang silicon in it. Very few are actually pure.
Right. Now, let's get Bloomberg on this immediately. She's saying all silicon panels will have some polysilicon in it, and most of that will come from Xinjiang, and therefore very few are pure. What does she mean by this? Very few are pure. She's saying that if your solar panel has polysilicon from Xinjiang, it is unpure for some reason. Okay? Tainted cotton, tainted solar panels. This is where we're going here, isn't it, Bloomberg? So we have a kind of a white supremacist statement here from Bloomberg saying very few of these solar panels can be considered pure. She's using this word pure, which means she's implying that anything that comes from Xinjiang or China is impure for some reason, which we can only infer they're referring to this claim that they're going to make in the rest of this video and the rest of this hit piece, saying that there is the forced labor issue. Okay, well, I initially thought this was ridiculous last night when I tweeted this, early hours of this morning. And I said, you know, this is laughable. It's easy to dissect. It's a hit piece from Bloomberg on China, Xinjiang, Uyghurs, forced labor. It's a pathetically flimsy BBC copycat mockumentary by @Climate, @QuickTake, @Aaron Rutkoff, all Bloomberg type things. And strangely enough, guess who crops up? Mr. Zenz again. He's there. He's in there. And we'll come back to him in a moment. So let's have a little look more at this video. That little copycat BBC thing that they've made with a grainy screen. Okay. And, okay.
Chinese companies dominate the solar industry.
You can see this factory has mainly machines and robotic. So unless the robots themselves are slaves,
industry and collectively control at least 60% of global capacity at every step in the supply chain. In Xinjiang alone, these 4 factories, and GCL Poly Energy, expected to produce over 80% of the world's polysilicon.
The region.
Okay, so you can see this is quite important. It's quite important for China, quite important for the world. Renewable energy, solar energy. China leads the world in this technology, these technologies. Now let's hear what they have to say. This guy here, this is a Bloomberg guy. This region attracts this industry.
Attracts this industry mainly, I would say, because of electricity.
Xinjiang has a lot of relatively cheap coal. Polysilicon is made using a lot of energy. So essentially, cheap electricity means cheap polysilicon.
Okay, so this is the Bloomberg solar, the solar expert from Bloomberg. You can't get the stuff these days, can you? She's saying that it's all about cheap electricity from Xinjiang. Okay, well, let's look at this. A tweet here from Andy602, who's saying quite clearly, Bloomberg is lying. Xinjiang's coal production is not a big deal in China. The following data is from the coal hub. China has a national power grid, so the cost of electricity is uniform. Xinjiang's electricity cost is not the lowest. Qinghai, Ningxia, Inner Mongolia are. There's the figures, okay? So there's line number 1. Well, it's line number 2 if you count the fact that a car behind you does not necessarily mean they're following you in some insidious fashion. So it's falling apart here, Bloomberg, isn't it? Right from the beginning, it's falling apart because you're lying. Right from the beginning, you're lying. Okay, Bloomberg, you are lying. I'm going to say it clearly, you're lying. This is a hit piece. This is trying to hit China's solar industry, which is of benefit to the world. You're trying to say that Xinjiang polysilicon is tainted somehow, okay? So let's be clear about what you're doing here and why you're doing it. We'll come back for part 3 shortly.
Fueled by cheap polysilicon, solar capacity is set to grow by about a quarter this year. 2020 saw record installations backed by almost $150 billion in investment, bringing solar panels to energy farms and homes around the world. The problem is that this industrial boom is reliant on China's troubled Xinjiang region.
Okay, Xinjiang is a troubled region. Not really. Not since China have dealt with the problems that they had. The problems that Xinjiang might face are from outside. They're not from Xinjiang itself, okay?
On China's troubled Xinjiang region. And almost no one outside China knows what goes on inside the polysilicon factories. And consumers, companies and governments are growing uneasy about...
Okay. So let's analyze this statement, the semantics. Almost no one outside China knows what goes on inside these polysilicon factories. Well, my guess is that they're producing polysilicon. If you took a factory from the United States and say, well, nobody outside this factory knows what goes on except that they do whatever the factory is supposed to be doing. So there's an implication there, trying to imply something is going on Well, it's a polysilicon factory. It produces polysilicon. It's pretty simple. Okay, we'll continue.
About their reliance on the region, rife with alleged human rights abuses.
Right. The region is rife. The region isn't rife with alleged human rights abuses. The media is rife with alleged human rights abuses. The media is rife with these allegations. It's not Xinjiang that is rife with allegations. It is the media. So these people are idiots. They don't even speak grammatically correct. This is rubbish. Okay, let's continue.
Shinta Energy, East Hope Group and GCL Poly Energy Holdings have been linked to a state-run employment program that, according to some foreign governments and academics, may at times amount to forced labour.
Okay, so according to some foreign governments and academics. Now, let's go back to the guy, again, here he is. They quote, and they say, we worked with Adrian Zenz. Okay, this work, it says here, this investigation is the work of a big team of business journalists put together over months. It's a centerpiece of the next @Climate. This is Bloomberg's climate division magazine, and the subject of a new quick take, again, Bloomberg documentary. So it's a big team, they say. It's very important, and it's going to be their centerpiece. Well, I'm going to take it to pieces before it even gets aired, okay? So they say Bloomberg, let's find this guy, let's find the quote. We worked with Adrian Zenz. What a surprise. He crops up again. Okay, here you are. We also worked with Adrian Zenz, the leading outside researcher, they say, into allegations. Yeah, he's the leading person who makes these allegations, right? Forced labor, okay, again, an allegation. His findings have already led to embargoes on cotton. So the raw material for solar panels could very well be next. We hope. This is what the agenda is, to create an embargo somehow on China's solar industry, and they're using Adrian Zenz. Well, I tell you what, let's look at what was said, and what Bloomberg say Adrian Zenz's methods are on this thing. So they say, okay, excuse me here. Authorities have pushed work programs in Xinjiang, including the transfer of workers in the region, and critics say most likely involve coercion. Well, they would, of course, most likely involve coercion. Okay, Zenz doesn't have access to any hidden government archives or whistleblowers regarding forced labor. Okay, quote from Bloomberg, he doesn't have access to these things, right? He and his researchers simply search for companies or products they suspect might be tied to a labor program using Google and Baidu. This is high-tech stuff. Google and Baidu. Adrian Zenz and his team are using Google and Baidu. Wow, that takes some technical knowledge. Okay, China's most popular search engine. Sometimes the researchers use Google's cache function, which saves copies of websites that might be blocked or taken down. Okay. And what do they get? This basic method, it turned up in April 2018 statement on the Xinjiang government's website with reference to TBEA Co., who gave employment. They gave employment to 300 poor workers, it says here, from Hotan. Okay, an area with a large Uyghur population. That it says, and now this is Bloomberg's words, been targeted by the government's assimilation policies. Now this is their language. What we're talking about is an employment program. It's a program to help people get work and have gainful employment. All this has been spun into coercive. They use this word coercive, okay? Well, if coercive means, look, you can be unemployed and poor, or we can find you a job. If that's coercive, so be it. But at the end of the day, that the facts remain that the standard of living of the Uyghur population has increased because of these employment programs. This is Western spin, calling it coercive, alluding to forced labor. Okay, so let's look. I'm going to show you this this document. I have it here. Oh, here we go. Okay, let's look at this. Adrian Zenz is currently bragging. Okay, I can't check this. A friend sent this. He's bragging because he's saying, okay, new evidence provided by me to Bloomberg implicates, get the word, implicates 3 of the world's largest polysilicon makers in Xinjiang's coercive labor transfer program. So this is all semantics and spin. So Zenz is saying it's implicating in what he's calling a coercive labor transfer program, which is just an employment program. Okay, so this, let's remember and bear this in mind. This is all spin. It's spin. This is the terminology they're applying to something which is done in every country in the world. Help people, well, most countries, I would imagine, try to help their people find employment and lift their standard of living. Okay, so, and Adrian Zenz says here, including some of the most blatant evidence I've seen to date. Well, let's rephrase that for you, Adrian. Some of the most blatant and ridiculous spin I have seen to date. Okay, and oh, there's a camp here. Okay, so it's actually where they make, produce solar panels and polysilicon. Okay, so I'm gonna blow this up so I can go back to this document. Here's the official document, okay, which was on a government website, which talks, and I've had this translated, and it says that we're providing employment opportunities. We're giving employment. We're going to take 200-300 people on and give them jobs here in this. It's not slave labor. Most of the heavy work is done by machines. If they're slaves, okay, fair enough. So we'll move from there to the next. Well, we'll go back to this. They again, this spin, assimilation policies. It's their spin. Adrian Zenz says it shows the company not only accepting laborers, workers, but being directly implicated. Now, it doesn't show anything of the kind. He is implicating because he's using this word coercive. It's just an interpretation. It doesn't mean anything. It has no basis in fact. Okay. So here's the English translation. Maybe he got this word drive because this is a literal translation and it says drive 200 and 300 people. Does that mean take them all the way? Probably. And provide them with nursery facilities to look after their children while they're working away, as many parents in China do, work away from their children. It's nothing new. It's no big deal. Okay, so we'll go forward. This word drive does not mean force. Okay. He says it shows the company not only accepting laborers, workers, but being directly implicated in a labor program. Okay. But he's calling it this coercive, intrusive recruitment, usually done by the government, says Zenz. Here we have a little graphic they've done here of a facility that makes or produces solar stuff, sports facilities. And it says here, workers were seen walking to work from what appear to be dormitories or living quarters. There is nothing unusual about this. This happens all over China. People live where they work often, or they travel and stay in dormitories while they're at work. This is not slave labor. This is not coercive labor. This is not forced labor. This is common practice in China and probably in many other countries around the world. It's no big deal. So we've got a guy here that they quote, a guy named Clump, who wound up in a job that had him roving around solar factories that were just starting out. He witnessed blah, blah, blah. So he set up some company to about clean energy. Note here, he's never been to Xinjiang. He's never been to polysilicon factories in Xinjiang. So he's no criteria. Talking about an elephant in the room. Well, there's your elephant in your room. You've got people who've never been there. Okay, here's the point. This is all so ridiculous, so flimsy, and so obviously faked and set up, again, using Adrian Zenz, this much discredited and debunked Nazi-affiliated religious zealot who thinks that Jews should burn in God's fiery furnace. Let's be clear, this is the truth. This is his own words. They're using him again to try and slur and slander China's solar panel industry and try and make it seem like it is tainted, and they're trying to destroy this industry, which is actually of benefit to the world. So you have to ask, do Bloomberg really not care about their own credibility when this guy has already been so many times debunked and proven to be false by everyone and their uncle and the dog? The Chinese government have debunked him. Many of my friends on Twitter and various bloggers have debunked him. It's proven that he lies and he concocts figures. And Bloomberg are using this guy again. So what does that say about Bloomberg's credibility? And it begs the question, and here's the question: at this point, are the Western MSM and governments looking for a way out, an exit from this whole Xinjiang slandering China debacle that they've been up to their necks in? And the way out is, as has been pointed out, Adrian Zenz. And is Adrian Zenz being set up for a little crucifixion here? That would suit you, Adrian, wouldn't it? A little crucifixion, maybe. So you have to ask this question. There is no credibility in this. It is laughable. It's hilarious how pathetic this is. It's a copycat of a BBC video, which was bad in the first place. They copied the BBC, who was shit to begin with. So there's no credibility, and you have to ask the question, are they looking for a way out now? They're having one last stab using solar panels and trying to set Adrian Zenz up for the hit, to take the hit for all this blarney. There's the question. I'm going to show you how ridiculous this all is, okay? Adrian Zenz's work.
So unprecedented. I've never seen this. The company not only accepts labor transfers of Uyghur workers from the government, the company actually has a poverty alleviation cadre. A cadre is a government official. What do poverty alleviation government officials in Xinjiang do? It says literally in the text, the cadre enters households, talks face to face with the poor, spreads the party's policies, and then it says literally prescribes the right medicine, meaning implements targeted poverty alleviation according to the actual situation of the household. And as
right, what he's saying is that the company sends somebody to discuss with people in villages who are maybe poor and don't have employment what can be done to help them. It's that simple. There's no mystery about this. This is nothing sensational. And what can we do? What kind of work can you do? This is fact-finding. They go, they find out what people can do, what skills they have, find them jobs. And where's the big deal in this? This is not, this is done, again, probably in every country in the world, or those who care about their people. Right, we're going to find you some work, and we're going to tailor this to your household, what suits you. Where's the big deal? Now, this has suddenly become, in Zenz's words and Bloomberg's words and the BBC's words, this becomes coercive. They use this term coercive. They spin it. This is poverty alleviation. This is helping people transcend poverty and find gainful employment. If that means they go away to work, sometimes it happens all over China. It happens all over the world. So I fail to see what is sensational about this. And I am astonished that Bloomberg have resorted to the same guy that the BBC paid. So we're guessing that Bloomberg have paid this zealot as well. I'm astonished that they've resorted to this level when this has been disproven, debunked, shown up to be manipulated data, whatever. And I wonder, where are all the other potential academics or professors that have the credibility to stand up to Adrian Zenz and take these numbers, these figures, these suppositions, these assumptions to pieces? And why don't Bloomberg show a balanced view? Why don't the BBC show a balanced view? And the reason is because there is no balance. There is a bias. There is an agenda. And the agenda is to make China look bad. The agenda is to slander China. And that's what this is all about. It's to hinder China. Okay? There is an agenda.